Hey, just a heads up that the following content may be disturbing or triggering for some listeners and is not appropriate for children. Please take care of yourself and others who may be listening with you. Welcome to the Bonus Babies Podcast, a show that has no easy answers, only hard questions.
You have this imperfect system, you have these imperfect kids, and so the person that's coming in for the rescue don't need to be perfect, but they need to operate with a perfect heart. And that means, I keep saying it, it's your resources, it's your money, it's your patience. You don't get nothing out of it. That's the whole thing of what people accept, the pure joy and knowledge of you're trying to better somebody else's life.
Can you tell me what you call the kids who you've cared for over the years?
We feel that the children that we receive coming into our home are bonuses. So we call them bonus babies.
I love that. This is your host, Jayne Amelia Larson, and I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for youth in foster care. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. In the same way a CASA works, I explore all things in the foster care maze by talking to kids, parents, caregivers, attorneys, social workers, therapists, really anybody and everybody who will speak to me to keep the conversation open and the information flowing about all things CASA.
Hi there, this is Jake Eberly, the producer of the Bonus Babies podcast, and today Jayne Amelia speaks with Shimeka Lott. Shimeka was a young woman when she had her first child, and then she became the kinship care for her nephew, and then signed up to provide emergency foster care. It's quite an incredible story. Here's Shimeka Lott.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm here with Shimeka Lott. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Jane?
I'm so glad I met you. It was a fluke, and here you are. You're exactly the person I need to talk to. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Absolutely. It is a pleasure to be able to join on with you. And absolutely, it was a fluke to have spoken to you and the connection instantaneously. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Okay, so, all right, so you're here in Los Angeles, right?
Correct, that is.
Right.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you were raised and what's your family of origin?
Okay, so I was raised in Los Angeles, California. My family came from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
We came in the 70s. I was 2 years old when I got here. Don't want to date myself. And lived here into the sixth grade. We relocated to Bakersfield, where my aunt was living because my brothers got into a little trouble and my mom wanted to get out of the city of Los Angeles just for the
Right, get them to the
security.
country where
Yeah,
where things were a little bit
yeah,
less
definitely.
heated, right? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so we ended up going to a little small town called Bakersfield. And then after living in Bakersfield for a while, I became a mother as a teen. And
How old were you?
I
How
was
old?
17 years old. I had her early. I
Uh-huh.
was supposed to have her at the age of 18, which is still a teenage parent.
Yep.
And I was an honor roll student. I was getting great grades and everything. And it happened. I was with
You
my
fell in love, or maybe you weren't in love. Maybe you just
no,
fell in
definitely.
something.
Yes,
Mhm.
I was definitely in love. Definitely thought this person and I was gonna be together, and it happened. I was living on my own because my mother had decided to move back to Los Angeles, and I did not want to leave in my 12th grade year to come to Los Angeles to finish out. She allowed me to stay with my best friend who is 2 years older than I, who thinks to let the kids stay on their own, but I was very, very mature. So I stayed on my own. And with my friend, we had our own apartment. I was very mature, very responsible. But when my mother found out I was pregnant, oh my gosh, she lost her mind. And she instantly wanted me to come back home. She did not want me out there. She thought
Ooh.
I just threw away my life as a young person, especially with school and grades. She didn't think that I was going to be able to handle being a young mom and then continue on with education and later on a career. So, Yeah, after that, we stayed in Bakersfield for a while and decided to move back to Los Angeles. So, yeah.
Right, so how did you handle being a single mom? I'm assuming you were a single mom, right? But you were living with your mom at that time?
No, I never moved back home. Once she
You
allowed me,
never did.
I
Wow.
never had to move back home. I was very responsible. So I'm the baby of four children. My mother had two boys, my older brother, my next older brother, and then my sister and myself. So she had two boys and two girls. I was the baby. So my two brothers were in the streets getting in and out of trouble, the neighborhoods we lived in, the lifestyle, whatnot. And they ended up getting incarcerated or, having their own life issues. And so my mom just had her two girls. Well, my sister got married at 18. As soon as she turned 18, she got married and moved out the house. So it was just me. So my mom became I called her a hoverboard. Like she smothered
Yes.
me because
Mm-hmm.
I was the last kid. She had lost a two to the system and then the other one to marriage. And so it was just like, okay, this is all I got, and growing up, I used to sit next to her and she would have me write out her bills, doing the numbers, write out the grocery bills. So I learned how to manage the house with her because it was she and I, and just learning from her. And what I ended up realizing, it wasn't hard. Like when you see somebody do it with ease, it seemed easy to you in your head. Like you like, oh, I can do that. Especially when you mature and have a good example of that, you
Right, so
automatically
she
can
was
do it.
modeling for you. It was good modeling, and you were learning how to do it because you saw how she did it. That's a perfect
Absolutely.
example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, she decided to move back to Los Angeles. My sister was married, and she decided to go ahead and take an opportunity out here. I did not want to come. I was like, okay, I'm in the 12th grade. I do not want to leave. And so I was like, I literally had to beg her, like, please do not snatch me out of school. You did that. She had took me out the 6th grade to go to Bakersfield to try to save her boys, and I was in acting school and everything in the 6th grade. And I was so angry that we had to uproot because they got in trouble. I remember crying profusely, just like, why do we have to leave? Because they're bad. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah. Mm-hmm.
didn't want that to be a repeat because she couldn't say them then. And I'm like, now you're moving back to town, back to Los Angeles, try to pick up where your life was. And I don't want to be drug in. I don't want to. I have friends out here. I'm doing good in school. So she agreed. We got our apartment. Me and my best friend, we got our apartment. We had a 2 bedroom. My friend had already had like a newborn. And so, yeah, my mom came down to visit one time and she taught me how to keep track of my cycle. And so on the calendar, I was marking it. And she's being who she is. Every month she'll come down. Every single month she'll come down unexpectedly, pop in, rather to give us some money, some groceries, or just to be nosy, just to see how we was maintaining the household. Yeah. And she was snooping in my room while I was in the bathroom, and she started looking at that calendar that was on the board and didn't see no X marks.
And that's how she figured out you were pregnant.
And she was like, "You're pregnant?" I'm like, "No." She was like, "You are pregnant." And so I was like, "Absolutely not." I didn't know. I was still waiting. I didn't mark the board, but I was still waiting on my cycle as well. So yeah. And she lost her mind. Like literally, I'm on my own and she's now demanding that I come back home. In my mind, I'm grown. You can't make me come home. But yeah, she was so angry, so disappointed. And she didn't want me to keep the kids. She thought I was going to throw away my life. She was a teen mom, and so she was like, "It's not going to work. You're going to struggle." And she was like, "I was a mother, teen mother. I have 4 kids," and she just started telling me about her struggles. And I'm thinking she's a super mom. Like, man, you did great. And so I didn't think that the thing she was telling me was relevant because I seen how well she did with us. So yeah.
But she didn't want that for you because she knew how hard it was.
Correct. Absolutely. And then, although I wasn't married, I was still with my partner, even though he was not the right person. In my head, he was at that time. And so, from day one that she met him, even before being pregnant, she never liked him. She was like, something about him, I don't know what it is. it's not right. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm like, how can you tell? But she had that energy to tell when something's off. Just like when she looked at my calendar, I'm like, is this lady magic or something? Because she knew, like, she would pick my friends apart, like, I'm not gonna talk to Miss Betty. She gonna get the truth out of me. And I'm like, oh my God, don't talk to her. If we did not want the truth to come out, we tried to avoid her, like, honestly, because some way she had a way to pull the truth out.
So there you are, a young woman, you have a baby,
Hmm.
you have a roommate, she's got a newborn.
Hmm.
How did you get by?
Well, my father paid child support. He was paying child support. She decided to give me the child support check to help me pay my rent before she found out I was pregnant, mind you. Let's be very clear. She was trying to do this to help me finish the 12th grade. So she
Right.
agreed to give me the entire check to maintain my side of the expense. Living in Bakersfield back then, it was not expensive. Like, you literally can get an apartment for $400 or $500 a month, honestly, in a very good neighborhood. And so we split the bills. And my friend, she had income. Her grandmother was paying her side of the household responsibilities. And yeah, we just pitched together and made it happen, honestly. I thought it was pretty easy because I was helping my mom with my nephew. We were raising my nephew, my brother, the mother of his child. She is no longer with us, but she was having difficulties, mental illness as well as drug abuse, and she was young. She already had two kids. I think she wasn't even 20 years old, two kids, in and out of jail, also drugs. And so I remember how my mother got custody of my nephew. So I can
Mm-hmm.
segue into that. My mother
Mm-hmm.
has always been hands on. Her door has always been open to my friends, to the neighborhood. Our home was a safe haven. Like, that's where kids came to hang out. I was always having people over versus she allowing me to stay the night at folks' house. It was just like, no, have them come over here. It was always, no, I couldn't go there, but they can come here. I think that was a way of keeping me safe or whatnot. So
Yeah, keeping an eye on everything, right?
absolutely. She felt like
Smart,
there was
yeah.
more control over knowing that I was home. Then I thought it was, again, her being a smotherboard because, again, why do I always have to be here? And why can't I go to my friend's home? You know what I mean? It's just, I did not like always, I loved my mom and we were like best friends, but I hated always having to have sleepovers at my house or be at my house. I wanted to go to somebody else's house. So my brother had a son. The mother, she ended up getting really, really strung out on drugs. My brother ended up going to jail because they were back and forth fighting and things like that. And she ended up calling the police because he had a warrant. So while he's in jail, she's leaving the baby literally in the swing, the newborn swing, with a bottle propped up to his mouth with a blanket for days.
For days,
For
wow.
days. So
Wow.
I found out one day because a friend of mine knew her and was like, she's been on the block having drugs, doing drugs. She's been on the block. And I'm like thinking, well, she don't have custody of her other two kids. So I'm trying to figure out who has my nephew, like what's going on. So I popped up over her house. The door was unlocked. The house was filthy. And he's laying in a swing, literally screaming and crying because the milk was out and he's soiled. So
Oh.
I took him. I
Mm-hmm.
took him and brought him home. And again, I was a teenager. I think I was 15 or 16 years old. I took him. Let me see if I think I was about 15,
Okay,
like
so
15 or 16.
right, so he was basically your first foster baby.
Yeah, I would say, and he was,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
So, and later on turned into my foster
Oh,
kid.
really?
Tell you
Wow. Huh.
100%. Absolutely. I literally had to get custody of him. So I brought him home. My mom's like, "What you doing with Chuck?" And I was like, Mary had him in the swing, and I told my mom what happened. She was like, I was hiding him in
Mm.
the room for a while because I didn't want my mom to know what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was skipping school at this time, and keeping him. And it started off before this happened. It started off because she was asking me to watch him and she would leave me with him for like days. And my mom said, "Stop watching him. You need to stop." So that's how I start checking in on him to see how things were going. So my mom said I couldn't keep him no more because she would stick me with him for days and days at a time. And I couldn't go to school. I would end up missing school. So then I started on my lunch break, a sneak over to check in on him. And one time, that's when I had found him at the house. So I brought him home, and my friend had a kid, and so I was trying to take care of him there. She had diapers and things like that, so we would share. She had a girl, but she would give me diapers, and her mom would help me with him. And so one day, my mom caught me with him because my mom worked two jobs, and so it was easy to have him in the house without her knowing. One day, my mom caught me with him. I don't know what happened. I forgot how it happens, but because it was years ago. But she was like, "What are you doing with him? I told you you couldn't keep him here because you need to go to school." And I was like, "No, I just got him for the weekend." And so the weekend rolled over, and I still had him. And she was like, "Call her, and you need to go to school." She was focused on my education. And so she wasn't going to take off work. And so I finally told her, "Look at him." And he was totally raw. I was like, "I've been trying to help him, blah, blah, blah." So that's when my mom called the police. She came over there trying to fight us. And my mom talking about she want her baby back. And I stole him and so on and so forth. So my mom showed the police how raw he was. He literally had blisters on his private area and his bottom
Oh
from
gosh.
diaper pen sitting on his bottom. And I was trying to do, remedies that my friend mom told us, cornstarch and all this other stuff to kind of nurse him back or whatever. So I learned parenting through trying to help him. And then my mother ended up fighting and getting custody of him. And that's how she ended up getting him because I brought him home.
How's that boy
hmm
now?
Chuck is 33 years old. He lives in Atlanta and he has a lot of trouble. And I'm going to be honest, he had it good with the family. My mom had custody of him until she got sick. She passed away at 49 years old from cancer.
Young
And
woman.
so he
Wow.
was only 9 years old. I lived in Portland, Oregon at the time when she told me she had cancer, and she begged me, please, like, come get him. My sister was in Atlanta at the time, married with her two kids. And she begged me not to allow him to enter into the foster system. She said, Mary is not going to do right by him, and your brother is definitely not going to be able to do it. So don't let my baby go into the system. So I promised her I wouldn't. On her deathbed, I vowed whatever it took for me to do it, I would take care of him. I didn't think it meant me having to relocate to get custody of him. I'm in Oregon. California system do not allow you to go to another state as long as there's an active case.
Wow.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that either. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I yeah, unfortunately, when I made that promise, I had a fiance, my own child. My daughter was in private school in Portland, Oregon. We were living together, and when my mom passed away, I was trying to get custody of my nephew. He did end up going into the system for probably like a month because I didn't understand the paperwork and all that. They would not allow him to come to Portland, Oregon at all because the mom kept fighting, saying she wanted custody of him, but really didn't. She ended up having, I think, like 12 or 13 kids, and every single one of them kept going into the system.
Wow,
But
really?
somehow she wanted
Gosh.
him.
Oh.
She kept fighting us for him. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I couldn't get custody of him out here. So I ended up moving to California.
So that you could
Yep.
have him. Yeah.
So that I can honor my mother's dying wish and get him out the system and do that. So I ended up moving out here. And yeah, he had a lot of problems. I think primarily because he witnessed my mom passing. That was trauma. He already had I would say, like, when kids are born on drugs, they already have this a disadvantage against them. And then there's some mental capacities with his father, which is another disadvantage. So it was a lot of things that was against him to be fully functional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you look at him, you can't tell that he's not fully functional. It's just his cognitive thinking
Mm-hmm.
was very low. His reasoning, his ability to make decisions on the spot or to be able to do things was difficult.
So how did you end up becoming a foster mom then? Because he started it all? Because you ended up
Yes,
fostering
he
for
did.
many years, right?
Yes, it's called kinship. So, kinship, for those who do not know, is basically when a relative gains custody or guardianship over someone that is in the system until they figure out if you're going to get custody of the kid or if they are going to find a permanent home or a temporary home for them. System wise, it's called kinship. So, I ended up going to apply to get certified so that when the time came, I would already know how to have my house prepared. They come out, take a look at your home. He had to have his own room because I had a daughter. So that was then. I think the rules has changed.
No, no, no. I
So,
think it's actually the same. I mean, depending
oh,
on maybe the county, but you can have a
mhm.
boy and girl in the same room.
So I always had to have a 3 bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I call him my son Ben. So my son would have his room, my daughter have her room, and the social worker would come all the way down from Bakersfield because again the case is still active
In Bakersfield,
because the
right?
mom kept
Mm-hmm.
expressing the desire to gain custody of him. So for years, this case stayed open, which I don't understand why they allowed that to happen, knowing that she never passed a clean drug test, knowing that every kid that she got was born on drugs, and they all were in the system through somebody else, a family, friend, or somebody had custody of every single one of her kids,
Wow.
every single one of them. And I think she had 13 kids. Like honestly, I think 10 or 13 kids between those. It was a double digit number of how many kids she had. Yeah, so when my mom passed, I ended up getting him, moved down here, found a place, and kept him. And so my daughter, it was a week and a half of being here. My daughter had never been sick. She got very sick, and I thought it was change of the weather or something like that because she was just vomiting. She was weak, and I thought she either had the stomach virus, maybe it was the chips because we drove from Portland to Los Angeles. I thought maybe the ride had her crazy in the stomach. She was very sick. Come to find out, she was in heart failure at I think 7.5 years old. She went into heart failure and needed a heart
Oh
transplant.
my goodness.
And so while I'm trying to fight custody for him, I'm now trying to figure out what's going on with my daughter because they're talking about she may not live. I'm literally trying to figure out how to stabilize this situation. I had just lost my mom 2 months prior, and then I'm now fighting for custody to get Charles to be able to stay here permanently. And now I'm trying to figure out how did my daughter have heart failure? Like, how did she ended up passing out and having 2 or 3 open heart surgeries so fast? Everything was happening so
Wow, that's just
fast.
terrifying. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, so things start leveling out. They decided to put her on the heart transplant list at Children's Hospital. I have a book about all this. Like we have a poetry book. She was writing poems and everything. Charles was getting into trouble because I think what happened is I had a kid that had physical issues and then a kid that had mental issues. Charles was grieving my mom, grieving his biological mom, anger wise, why she's not here, blah, blah, blah. And then grieving my brother, who is his dad, who was in and out of his life because he was in and out of jail. And so he's dealing with a lot of loss. And now my daughter's sick, and he's thinking he's going to lose her now, his cousin.
Oh, oh
And so
gosh.
he's acting out at school. I mean, every single day I'm getting calls from the school. They want to suspend him. He didn't stab somebody with a pencil. Like he's getting bullied, because he stuttered. It was just a lot going on in his life. And it was hard for me because, again, behavior versus health as a foster parent, this is why I say don't get into foster parenting. If you lack patience, if you lack empathy, if you lack resources, because sometimes, a lot of times, you're going to come out of your own pocket with your own resources. or if you lack a support base, because again, all these things help um, to build a solid foundation in somebody's life that has been shattered. Again, he was acting out behavior wise. So I had to understand, although my daughter is sick physically, he got something going on in his head that's triggering him emotionally. I had to send him to therapy, to Dee Hirsch, to various different counselings, because again, this can manifest into something that could be dangerous for him. Just so many things that
Right. So was he suicidal too? Because you're referring to
no,
Dee
he
Dee
just was
Hirsch.
violent towards, and I don't even like saying the word violent. He was only 9 or 10. He was 10 years old. He just was angry, and he would like he stab somebody with a pencil, but not aggressively stab. Like he stuck them with the pencil, and he'll slap somebody's paperwork off the desk. He was just acting out. It
Acting
was
out,
never,
yeah.
yeah, he had never actually really harmed himself or nobody else. It just was behavior. He would be kicking when the teacher trying to make him sit in the corner. He wouldn't do it. Like,
Mm.
just a lot going on. He just wouldn't listen. He would walk out the classroom. He just wouldn't listen. In the middle of class, he kept leaving the classroom. They had to go look for him. Just he'll go in other people's classroom, just wandering around, causing trouble because he wanted attention. He wanted to feel love. It was just a lot going on in his head, in his life. And I think that's how he dealt with his fears, acting out, people paying attention to him.
That's a really interesting observation. I don't think I've really heard that before, but I think you're really spot on. That he was acting out in order to feel love, in order to feel wanted, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that when I finally had the conversation, because he had to move back to my house, where I'm staying now as an adult. And we finally sat down and had a conversation of what was going on then. So this is me sharing with you what I was interpreting in that moment of what was happening. But then to later on, years later, have a adult conversation with him to find out what was going on and to validate that, it's different, because I think he was justifying to say, well, I felt like you were paying more attention to Ash than you were paying attention to me, whereas Ash was laying there practically dying, and my daughter did eventually pass away. He
Um,
felt like when I went to, even when she was out of the hospital, because she stayed in and out of the hospital for a while. Even when we were out of the hospital and we were living in the house all together as a family, and we would go to open houses and things like that, my daughter would say, I'm paying more attention to him because I want to check in and see how he was doing in class. I already knew she was a student, she was doing good. So I didn't really open house night. It's the same school, who classes do you go to? You only have so many times to go around. So I'm like, I already know she doing good. Let me go check on him,
mm-hmm.
see how he's doing. And that way she was like, you never check in on my classroom and see how I'm doing. And we already know he's doing bad. And I'm like, what? Like, so it was a push and pull between, I'm paying too much attention to him because of his behavior. He thinks I'm paying attention to her too much because of her health. And so it was a push and pull. They were cousins, but they were best friends, like literally. But the way they expressed how I paid attention to one or the other basically validated that they both got the love and attention they needed. They just wanted it in a different capacity. Yeah,
Okay, but it must have been super stressful for you. You were a young woman just trying to figure out
absolutely.
how to manage all this, right?
And I had lost my mom. So we're grieving. I'm grieving. I just lost my mom. Now my daughter, they tell me I might lose my only child, and then I'm taking on a kid that in my head, even though he's my nephew and I love him, feel like he's being ungrateful and not appreciative to the sacrifice I just made from moving to Portland, Oregon to Los Angeles to care for him. He's acting out. I just, in that mindset, I thought he wasn't being appreciative and reasonable until we started as a family going to counseling and therapy and having us all work out our feelings separately and collectively. Like, you know what I mean?
And
And so that's how I was able.
and how was that set up? Was that offered to you, or did you seek that out, or
Well, it started off with him having to get it because of what was taking place in and out of classrooms, how they want to put him on medication. I didn't think medication was at that time, to me, effective for him. I allowed it for the first few months, but I found that he was sluggish and depressed. It really turned him into like a zombie. I didn't like the results of it. And so I took him off. And so they were about to reassess if I was capable of caring for him because I didn't want him on the medication. So I asked for another alternative first to say, hey, instead of this medication, can we please have him talk it out because we're masking what's going on in his head. Allow us to talk it out because he wasn't on medication at first, and I don't think that's the answer. He's grieving, he's lost, he think he's about to lose again. Let's work these problems out. And so when I asked for therapy and counseling, they allowed it through the system. And so it started off with just him talking. And then the lady, I would ask for reports. She was like, "Oh, you're engaging. Usually people drop the kids off for therapy and they'll just pick them up and that's it. But I would want to know what was going on. How did he do? Do they see any improvement? Do I need to be aware of something at the house?" And so she was all like, "What do you think about family therapy?" Because he mentioned his cousin Ash a lot. And I'm like, "Will you be willing to allow her to come?" I said, "As long as it's safe," because she had a heart transplant and we got to be clear that it's clean, no sick people. It was just like a lot that I had to make sure the environment was safe. And then they started doing one by one, asking her some questions like, what do you feel like having a brother now in the house? Because Ash was the only kid at first, right? So you're talking about, 8 years of being the only kid, and then now you have to share everything when you got everything by yourself. Same thing with Chuck. Chuck was the only kid in my mom's house, and now all of a sudden you're sharing your stuff with this kid, and now mom's gone because he considered my mom his mom. It was just a lot, but it worked out. Yeah, it worked out. They were very close. And then somehow I decided I want to help another kid. It was crazy.
another kid?
Who takes on more with all of this,
I
right?
guess it's you,
Like,
baby.
what is going on? What was I thinking? Okay, so how did I become a foster parent to someone else with all of this going on? I have a daughter who had a heart transplant, 4 surgeries in, and then my nephew who is being my nephew child. Like he's trying to settle down now. He's settling into himself. The house is stable. Ash ain't in the hospital right now, and we're functioning, right? At least I think we is. So Ash is solid. Charles is starting to level out. Okay. And so I decided I want to. My uncle was running a group home, not like a group home. I think it is in Portland. He had like 5 boys, a boys' home in his house. Like he had like a 7 or 8 bedroom home. And so he decided to get some boys and some kids there. And so I was like, I should help. Get a family. So I went and got D certified, F certified. And those are rates for those who do not know. When you become a foster parent and you want to start a group home or whatnot, or foster home, you can get your house certified for certain types of kids. I think F rate is the highest rate of the highest need, whether they physically or mentally need certain levels of care or help. D rate is the next level, and so on and so forth. So they rate them according to their capacity of need, whether it's mental, physical, whatever the case may be, health wise, so on and so forth. That they need medical attention, whether it's trach, wheelchair, or if they're suicidal, if they are touching people, if they're dangerous, all that stuff. They're rated according to their status. Okay, so I decided to be emergency rescue home. Like I am crazy.
Wow. Okay.
That means you open 24 hours and somebody call you. If the social worker call you and say, "Hey, I have this newborn. Can you take them?" If it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you say yes.
Wow.
Like you can say no, but usually if you're signing up to be a 24-hour rescue, then you should be able to say yes. You get very minimum information when you're getting these kids, because again, they're taking the kids out of that situation right away and don't have that much information, and they need to put them in a safe haven. Okay. So again, I'm saying when we get into things like this, again, you must be patient. You need your own resources, because the system is not going to instantly drop the kid off with a check, with some money, so on and so forth. You have to be financially in a good position to be able to take on this kid. The kid may only come in with a diaper, with a pair of shoes, with no jacket, just in pajamas. When they say rescue, clearly think of the word rescue, because again, they can come into any type of situation, right? And so I received a young boy. He's grown now, so I can say his name. I received a young boy by the name of Delvin. Won't reveal his last name. And I got a call and it's like, hey, we have this 5-year-old boy, so loving. And I was wondering if you'll be willing to take him on. And I was like, okay, tell me a little bit about him. Well, we just have to rescue him, but I think this would be a more permanent situation than a 24, 48-hour situation. I'm like, okay, cool. So they brought Delvin. His shoes were too small. They must have been somebody else's shoes. They both were two left shoes. They were not, like, they literally brought him that night to my house with two left shoes. So he had, these shoes were too small, no clothes, and just only pajamas on. Okay. So me being me, I went out shopping the next day instantly. Got the baby some shoes, some clothes, got him whatever he need. Delvin had a problem as it relates to when he have anxiety, he poops on himself. 5 years old, poop on himself. That's not a problem for me. The problem was when Delvin starts smearing the poop out of anger on the wall to punish me.
Oh
That
no.
was when he got angry. You gotta have patience when I tell you, because you get all walks of life of these kids, and you don't know what was happening with him in that household, of how he expresses anger or his fear or what was going on, the trauma that he was dealing with. You can't spank the kids. You can't, none of the stuff. Like, I grew up with spankings, like, at the end of the day. And I think there's a difference between spankings and abuse, in my opinion. To me personally, somebody may beg to differ, but to me, I think when the level of authority has been removed, then the kids run the show, because they don't have no consequences or repercussion as it relates to, if I act out, then what? Like, you know what I mean? So physical is not always the way, but they need to know that there's a next level to, if you continue to be the aggressor, then this is what happens. Not violent wise, but just like, listen, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, it's
You
very
can-
tricky, right? Because you can't put your hand on the kid at all,
cannot.
because you can go to jail for that.
You definitely, even your own kid, like,
Yeah,
that's
even your own kid. And yet, if the kid has no boundaries and hasn't learned boundaries, how do you
and they can hit you and not go to jail.
That's right.
Are you kidding me? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's wild how they have more rights to be the aggressor, the dominant person. They can literally attack you and nothing happen at all. But then when you either they did teach us how to hold them, to restrain them only for a certain period of time in a certain way.
In a certain way, right? Yeah.
Yes. So
Yep.
there's only, it's kind of like a hug hold. You know what I mean? You
Like a
can't.
firm hug hold, right? Yeah.
And so Devin used to do certain things and tear up stuff, and so I would tell Devin to go stand in the corner. That's when Devin was poop on himself and he'll smear all on the wall.
no, gosh.
Jane, when I tell you, like, I'm already sensitive stomach. Like, oh my gosh. So I'm asking Chuck to go. He was like, that's your kid. You asked him, knowing Chuck used to be the trouble kid too, right? I'm like, Chuck, come help me clean this up. Man, no, that's your kid. You decided to take him on. And I'm like, Chuck, you didn't say that when I took you on. Like, it used to be, we laugh about it, like, during the time, like, man, you better get him. I'm not doing it. So I'm like, oh, you are so wrong. So Ash definitely wasn't good. She was like, I had a heart transplant. That's her out for everything. That was her out. Absolutely not. I had a heart transplant. Don't you ask me to do it. I'm not touching that stuff. So I used to tell Devin, if you do it, you're going to have to clean it. I don't care. Like, period. I don't care. Devin started doing it at school, though.
Oh no.
and they was not going for it. They would send him home, and I'm like, I had to work. You can't keep taking off work. I'm gonna lose my job. You know what I mean? And so it took a couple of months for Devin to level out. Like he finally realized you're safe. You're in a
Hmm.
home. You got your own bed. He was sharing beds with rooms with Chuck because two boys can share. He was sharing rooms with Chuck. But he fell in love with my daughter. He was like, he used to sit up there and bat his eyes like, hi, Ashley. He just stared at her so much. He was so in love. He would just draw pictures of hearts, and he was so in love with my daughter. And my daughter used to be like, Mom, he creeps me out because every time I'm asleep, he'll come in there and he's sleeping on my floor with his pillow. He would take his blanket and his pillow out of his room, out of his bed, and go lay on my daughter's floor next to her bed and fall
Oh.
asleep.
Oh
And
gosh.
so she will be like, "Here, that's so creepy." Because then that movie, The Orphan, was out. I don't know if you ever seen the movie,
Yes.
but
Mm-hmm.
she seen the movie Orphan, and she thought he was like a man child at this time. And so she was like, "What if he wake up in the middle of the night, decide he wanted to kill me?" I'm like, "Girl, stop!" Like, so it was just little crazy jokes that we used to mess around. And Devin got comfortable. We finally got him settled. He got into school. He got clothes. We're going to church. We're a cohesive unit. We're having outings. He's not pooping on himself like that no more. And then I get a call to say Devin relatives wants him back.
Hmm.
Somebody in his family wants him back, and we're gonna come pick him up today. No warning, just decide they're gonna take him. Not give me action to say, hey, well, have y'all investigate? We found a relative for Devin, and we want to place him with them. When I tell you Delvin wasn't even gone a week, they called me back asking could he come back.
Wow. Wow.
My kids cried when he left because I think he was with me for almost like a year. My kids cried because it took a minute for us to adjust. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I need to talk to the kids because I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play games with them. And I was like, what do you guys think? Like, Devin went to the parents' house and now they're asking to bring him back. And they was all like, what if they do it again? And blah, blah, blah. And the lady is all like, we can't guarantee that they're not. And so me having a conversation with my kids, because it affects them. It's not about me only. I have to respect that. And so I declined. I was like, I felt so terrible about it because if he needed to come back, he needed to come back, if that makes sense. And then I was like, do I put his needs before theirs? Because they were very angry and upset that it bothered them. They cried. I had to deal with them for a whole week of worrying about Delvin. They were worried what happens. They were sad. And so I was like, well, if I do this and he leaves and they come back and leaves and come back, I don't know. I wasn't ready for that. So I told the lady, no, I don't want to do that. I want somebody, you can place somebody with me. And then I also declined to be emergency home. I start shifting the need because of how they reacted to Delvin being taken out the home. They started getting attached to Delvin. And so the lady said, remember, that is the risk. We're trying to find their family. So when you sign up for emergency rescue, it can be 1 day, it could be 100 days, it can be a year. That's the risk you have to take when you are signed up as a rescue home, that we're looking for another relative to place them there because that's where we want them with family. And so I decided not to do rescue anymore. I wanted something more long term that can turn into possibly adoption, or once they're in my home, they're with us. You know what I mean? For the sake of my kids. And so that's when I got another kid. He didn't last long because they found out that the parent was falsely accused, and she was able to finally document it for the mom that could get a court date and really prove what they said about her. The neighbors was calling the police on her, and that's because they were fighting back and forth. And so it was a false call, and she was able to get her kid back. After that, I didn't foster parent outsiders anymore. I just focused on raising Ash and Charles. Charles was still in the foster system. The social worker would come out every month, drive down from Bakersfield. And then it came to the time for them to ask me if I wanted to legally adopt him. That means on paperwork, I really would be considered his mom. I had asked Chuck, what do he want to do? Like, do he want to keep things like this, or do he want now to legally me be as considered his mom? And he said that my mom was his mom, and that he want me to always be his auntie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I 100% agreed, but I didn't want to make that decision for him. And he was like, it's not going to change what we're doing. I just don't want my paperwork say that you're my mom. My mom is mom. Like, he is basically saying our mom is mom. Like, you know what I mean? Not even his biological mom. My mom was
Yeah.
his mom.
Yeah. He's talking about your mom, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His
And
grandmother,
so,
right? Mm-hmm.
correct. And so I told him we don't want to go the direction of adoption, and that I want to continue with the kinship, the legal guardianship. And he's going to turning 16, 17, 18 throughout the system. He's going to be grown, and he's forever going to still be family. So what's the purpose of it? And
Mm-hmm.
so he stayed into the system until he aged out, and he lived with me until he graduated from high school. And then when he graduated from high school, he didn't cross the stage because his last year of school, I made sure he had enough credits to graduate. But Chuck started dipping out, hanging with friends, and kind of like skipping class or whatnot. And my daughter was snitching on him. I'm like, oh, Chuck just came up to the, because they would meet at the bus stop. Like, you walk to, oh, Chuck just got back to the school. I didn't see him nowhere on the campus. He usually on the basketball. Chuck just got to school. So she would snitch, let me know.
Okay, so he's like skipping school, and he's like showing up at the bus stop like he attended class all day.
Correct.
And your daughter's like, "No, mom."
Yeah, he in them streets. He ain't going to school. And so one time, this was in, my rent came up missing. I had, not missing, I gave them a debit card, and I still have it titled Mom's Checking, because I tried to give them allowance and make them responsible. So if my chart was $5 a day. I had a chore chart basically, and it would go across. You'll check everything off that you did: made the bed without asking, took out the trash, did the dishes, vacuumed your floor, and they had a chore chart: clean your own bathroom, so on and so forth. If you did all these things 5 days out of the week or whatever, and you get an extra bonus of money. So it was basically $100 a month or whatever. You get $25 a week. So, and I would deposit into their kid's debit card or whatever. Correct. He had money on his debit card. She had money on her card. She was a saver. He was a spender. And so she would save her money to go and buy big things. He would spend his money daily on McDonald's. All you seen was McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's down his list. He was treating his friends like whatever. It's not a lot of money, but back then that was a lot of money. He was treating his friends and everything. And so what happened is we ended up looking into my account. He took my debit card. So my rent came up missing.
He takes your debit card. I'm
And
sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
like,
Yeah.
okay. And on it, I'm seeing new shoes at Foot Locker, McDonald's, McDonald's. He swore up and down wasn't him, but his pattern of spending indicated it was him. He swore up and down. I called the social worker. I'm like, absolutely not. This is it. Because you get into those zones, it's like, I can't punish him. I can't whip him. I can't chastise him. I want to sock him in the chest. Like, boy, like, what would you, like, what? You know, I was so angry at him because he's turned into a young man now. He's a senior, and you starting, how dare you steal rent from over your head? Like, what is you thinking? Who is the people you're hanging out with? I was so angry at him. I told Debbie, come get him. Like, that was the name of the social worker. Debbie comes, she was like, I'm going to come beat him up myself. Like, she was like, what is wrong with him? Like, me and her used to like gang up, like, we gonna get him. Like, you know what I mean? So, Debbie, come get him. He gotta go. Because I have sacrificed so much, and for him to do this, and I have no other resources, I can't do it. So she's like, I'm finna drive down there. I'ma jack him up. So she got down here, she took him out, made like a lunch and conversation or whatever, and she came back and handed me a check. And I was like, it's not your responsibility. He needs to learn the repercussions of if you wasn't here to make up for it, what what could happen. She personally gave me a check. The system didn't do it
Wow, really?
because we've been working together for him since he was little. And she was like, I got high hopes for him to stay on track. You know what I mean? Like, why are you ruining this? I don't want to put you in the system. You don't want to go to juvenile. You don't want to go to jail. Like, she wants me to come get you. Like, she was really rooting and fighting for him. Yeah, I remember that. And I didn't want to take it because I didn't want him to think he was going to get bailed out for every mistake he made. I wanted him to learn this is the consequences. You took your rent and now you're without a home. Come get him. Like, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I had to take it because I couldn't afford to pay the rent. Like, he took the money out the account and kept saying he didn't. He never owned up to it to this day. Like, are you kidding me? Who eats $1,000 worth of McDonald's and the shoes? Like, it was crazy. So, anyways.
We talked a little bit earlier that you just wanted to make sure that you spoke your truth, that
Correct.
to really talk about how difficult the job is.
Yes.
And you really described it really well. So what's in it for people who are thinking, maybe I could be a foster mom? I mean, if it is so difficult.
I think honestly, so there is no perfect system, especially the system of foster parenting and the foster care and the system of taking kids out of the home. This is not a perfect system, right? So when you have an imperfect system, you have to operate in the highest integrity to make something imperfect almost flawless, because what takes place is when there is a gap, it then becomes somebody can fall through the gaps, what I'm saying. So say for instance, this kid is getting taken out of a home that he or she has been functioning in. You'll hear a lot of stories of people, especially in my kind of community, of people's, oh, my mom was on drugs, she grew up to be a crackhead, but I'm a basketball star. You hear those stories of how they survived and turned into somebody. You know what I mean? It made them who they are. It made them the core of the toughness of who they are. So you have these systems where you take them out of these places where they're functioning. They still love their crackhead mother, their abusive father. They know how to function in discourse. And then you put them in strangers' home. They don't want to be there. I don't care how good I was to my nephew. He wanted to be with my brother who was in and out of jail because he wanted his real parent. He didn't have his biological mother. He didn't have my mom who passed. So his next thing, he always wanted my brother to get his life together so he can go live with him. He was
Right, his
rooting
real daddy,
his
right?
real father.
He wanted his
No
real
matter
daddy. Yeah.
how good I was to him, that was the hope of his soul, was to be able to go live with his father. So you have this imperfect system, you have these imperfect kids. And so the person that's coming in for the rescue don't need to be perfect, but they need to operate with a perfect heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, I keep saying it, it's your resources, it's your money, it's your patience. You don't get nothing out of it. That's the whole thing of what people accept, the pure joy and knowledge of you're trying to better somebody else's life. The system don't pay you enough to do it. There's nothing really to gain if you're doing it for the right reasons, is what I'm saying. Some foster parents become foster parents because they want the money, the check or whatever, and then they highly neglect the kids. But if you wholeheartedly go in there doing it, the check is not enough.
That's
Honestly,
right. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
check
it's not
is
enough.
not enough to take on these kids and to get them on track and provide them a full life as if it was your own child. So when the key word is what do you get out of it, I'll say absolutely none but pure joy, knowing that the life that you're pouring into may develop into a beautiful life into the community and society. That's what you get out of it. When you go in with the high hopes of thinking that money is the avenue, you're part of the problem. You're part of the
Right.
problem because the money is not enough. And when they late on the check, because I've had it, when they late on the check or don't pay you or do something like that, then what? Do you be mean to the kid? Do you stop providing for the kid? Like, what happens when the system fails? Do you stop loving on the kid? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that you need to have patience, you need to have love and self-sacrifice in order to be a foster parent, because a lot of times the system is a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to paperwork, them approving things.
And everything takes so long.
Say,
It's so
mm,
there's so you think, "How could it take so long?" And then it takes longer
yeah.
and longer and longer.
And especially if you don't have a good social worker. I thank God for my social worker that I was assigned to, Debbie Moeller. I wonder if she's
Yeah,
still
she
alive.
sounds great, Debbie. She
She's
sounds like a great social
amazing.
worker.
I wonder if she's still living. I hope so. Because she was a
I
little
hope
bit
she hears
older.
this episode. If there's a way to get in
Yes,
touch with her, you gotta send it to her because she
yes.
does sound really special.
She made the foster care, kinship a blessing. She really poured into Chuck a lot. I remember Chuck told her, she whooped me with a shoe. She drove down here and was like, Chuck, if I could whoop you myself, I would. All the stuff you done did. Because it's like, be real. Like, she knew he was lying. It's just, but if he would have said that to another type of social worker, they would have snatched him out of my home. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, he would have
being
been removed. Yeah.
that she
Mhm.
knew how I loved on him, how I cared for him, and that he was just angry at me and was trying to get me in trouble in that moment, had that been a different type of social worker. But then there's also kids that are in the system that is being abused, and the social worker does not act.
That's right. That
So
happens
I'm
too.
glad that she was so in tune to who I was as a human to be able to decipher that there was not abuse going on, but she have told me personally that she had to move a kid out of the system because of abuse. So I'm glad that there wasn't a sense that she ignored Chuck's cry for help, but she knew that it really wasn't a cry for help. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
I just say for people, I just connected. I'm a realtor. So just want to drop that out there. America, I'm a realtor. Have a
She's
need.
a business person if
Ah!
you're looking for
Yes,
looking
yes,
for a
yes.
house
Yes, yes, yes. Buy, sell, or
in
invest.
Los Angeles. What's the name of your company again? Who do
I
you work
work for
with?
Keller Williams in South Bay Torrance, and
Excellent.
I'm a resource all over California. I'm more than a realtor. I'm a resource for roofing, plumbing, all that. But I want to say that for this reason. I just connected to another realtor. This is really crazy. I called her because I have a client buying a home, and I instantly connected to this lady, but I hear kids in the background. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just got custody of this newborn baby. They called me baby not even 10 days old, called me to get this baby out of the hospital. This is my third kid." This lady's 61 years old. I didn't know that
Wow.
over the phone until she started giving me, she was like, you should get back into it. After we talked for almost an hour over the phone, come to find out she's adopted two boys. That's brothers. They don't know they're adopted. She's raising them
Hmm.
as her own. Her husband had just recently passed that was helping her raise these two boys. And now she has a month-old baby.
Wow.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're in your 60s and you decide to go get a newborn? What are you thinking?
Wow.
And you're a realtor? So I called her initially because she has a listing. My client wanted to look at one of her homes. Okay. So that's how we connected. And now she's telling me about her foster care and how she's trying to help her friend become a foster parent. And it is the greatest joy. And this is everything she ever hoped for, so on and so forth. And I'm sitting there like, girl, the energy that I poured into Chuck and Delvin and Michael back in the days in my 20s and 30s is not the energy I have now. Like, I don't know how you're doing it. Like, I honestly, she sent me over pictures of her family. So I said all this to say that there are people that really find that this is a joy. They're truly want to change somebody's lives. And that,
And they're special people. They really
yes,
are. They're
and
special people.
when you find those people, I wish the system would really recognize and support them, because the system can do better with helping folks that are pouring into these lives. Optional. They're choosing to pour into the lives of someone else. choosing to use their own resources. And so I wish that there was a way that they can have a greater response time when it's time to request for funds or things that they know that they need to be taken care of, because the kids still belong. Ultimately, the kids are the system. They belong to them. So they are responsible for these kids. So when they leave the foster parents hanging with the bag, it's sad, and it makes people less willing to take on this journey, because some folks don't have the resources. Some folks want to help, but they were like, well, I can't financially do it myself. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you one other thing before we stop. And I asked this of all my guests. And what is the one thing that no one would ever know about you unless you told them?
That's a hard one, because I literally am an open book. Honestly, I will see. I done told you all my little life story. Maybe because I call humans humans. This is just so funny. It's an inside joke. Like, if you met me, I'm in a people business, but don't really like people.
Oh,
Don't.
no!
It's so. This is probably going to ruin my life. Everybody laugh at me when I tell them. I promise you, I am doing hair as a hairstylist. Real estate is a people business. Being a foster person is people. And I'll be like, oh, these humans, they stress me out. Like, humans give me anxiety. I am not lying to you. And I literally, it's kind of like saying aliens, but I'm saying humans, like,
I
because,
totally get it. I
yeah,
totally get it.
it's something about humans that it just, ugh. But
Ugh,
at the end of the day, I'm in the people business. How? And
you
I asked
are.
God, honestly, I asked God, how did I end up in the people business when I don't like your people? Like, literally, I literally pray. I'm like, God, how did I end up in this type of business having to deal with your people? Like, honestly. So, a person, when you meet me, because I'm so welcoming, I'm so
Yes,
giving, you
warm
wouldn't
and
know that I
giving
really don't like humans.
and patient.
Yes.
And you really don't
You,
like people.
honestly, like,
Okay,
if
this
I
is
was to call
classic.
on the phone right now and somebody were like, "What don't you like?" They were like, "Humans." It's so
Okay,
embarrassing, but I don't like
yet,
them, but I love them. You know what I mean? Like, I know how to love on people. I love on people when they're hurt, when they're down. Um, yes,
you just don't like humans.
because people are
That's just
selfish.
classic Shimeka.
Yeah, people are selfish, and it's just we got a lot of bad humans out here, and so
There are. There
yeah,
are.
so yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm so glad we met, and it's just really great to hear your very frank point of view about all this. It's really valuable. Thank you.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure. And one last thing before we end, I say to anybody that's thinking about becoming a foster parent or getting bonus babies, I truly say that it was a gift. If I was to rewind the clock, there is nothing that I would not change about anything that I did except saying no when it came to Delvin coming back the second round. I've always wondered where he is. From that point on, and I don't want to get teary eyed about it, because that is the only regret of that journey of foster parenting, of getting my certifications, is that answer no has always bothered my heart, my soul. You know what I mean? So I truly say that if you have an opportunity to help the kids in need, do it, because the key word is they are in need. Okay? Huh? I think about that and I get teary eyed, because I do wonder about where he is and how did his life turn out. But
I might be
yes.
able to help you find him, by the way. We'll talk offline.
Okay.
I might be able to help you find him.
He probably won't remember me. I think he probably about 20 some years old right now. Probably
Okay.
24, 23, something like that. Okay.
Okay, I can probably help you.
Awesome.
All right?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. You're fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Shimeka, you've done a lot. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's an incredible one. And I think the one key that you bring to this is patience and resources, because foster care as a whole is so unpredictable. But like you said, everyone you know who's done this feels incredibly rewarded by helping these young people get on their feet. So, thank you very much. If you like the content we're creating here and would like to hear more, please like, follow, or give us a review. It helps a lot. Thank you, and be well. If you or someone you know is harming themselves or thinking about harming themselves, go to crisistextline.org. If you see something, say something. If you suspect a child's health or safety is jeopardized in any way by parents or anyone else, contact the Child Protective Services Agency in your county. 24-hour hotlines are staffed by trained social workers who will help you through the process, and you can do so anonymously. In California, you can call the Child Protection Hotline at 800-540-4000. So if you see something, say something. You might be saving a child's life. If you want to know more about becoming a CASA anywhere in the country, go to nationalcasagal.org, and in LA, casala.org. And if you want to know more about becoming a foster parent, check out the National Foster Parent Association at nfponline.org. There's also faithfosterfamilies.org and adoptuskids.org. There's tons of other information online as well, so you can just hunt around. We also want to thank the supremely talented Christina Apostolopoulos for her beautiful original music. You can find her music on Spotify or Instagram at Christina Aposta. And also thank you to Yukon Har for his engineering. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you hear and you find it as valuable as we do, please rate us and hit subscribe. You can also make a donation at bonusbabies.org. See you next time.